You think you're making choices. You think your willpower decides who you date, how you react, what you tolerate, what you chase, what you avoid, and what kind of person you are. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't driven by their will. They're driven by what they refuse to see in themselves. That hidden part has a name, the shadow. And the shadow doesn't behave like a quiet passenger. It behaves like a covert operator. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up as, I am my shadow. It shows up as certainty, as moral superiority, as instant disgust, as irrational attraction, as overreactions, as self-sabotage, as compulsions, as patterns you swear you hate, but keep repeating. So if you don't know your shadow, you don't have freedom. You have explanations, and explanations are what people use when the true driver is hidden. Let's define it cleanly. Your will is what you consciously choose. It's the part of you that says, I want to be disciplined. I want to be calm. I want to be confident. I want to build a good life. I want to do the right thing. The shadow is what you learn to hide, deny, or push away because it felt unsafe, unacceptable, shameful, or too risky. Sometimes that shadow is bad traits, anger, envy, greed, selfishness, cruelty. But sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes your shadow is your power, your ambition, your sexuality, your intensity, your need to lead, your desire to win, your need to be seen. Anything you were punished for, mocked for, or made to feel guilty about can get buried. And what gets buried doesn't die. It becomes indirect. It becomes manipulative. Because the shadow still wants expression, but it can't appear openly. So it leaks out sideways. It comes out in the way you judge others, in the way you randomly lose motivation, in the way you pick fights over nothing, in the way you become passive-aggressive, in the way you overwork, overtrain, overspend, overeat, overthink. The less conscious you are of this mechanism, the more it runs you. Here's a simple test. What triggers you? Not what annoys you, not what you dislike. What triggers you instantly? The moment you see a certain type of person and you feel heat in your chest. The moment someone speaks a certain way and you feel the urge to humiliate them. The moment someone gets success and you feel a bitter taste. The moment someone sets a boundary and you feel offended. Those are not random emotions. Those are signals, and they're usually pointing to your shadow. Because when you don't own a trait in yourself, you can't see it neutrally in others. You see it with charge. And charge means, this is about me. That's why the shadow is so dangerous. It can hijack your life while you believe you're being rational. You'll say, I don't like them because they're arrogant. But maybe you repressed your own desire to be bold. And now boldness looks like arrogance. You'll say, I don't trust anyone. But maybe you don't trust your own emotions, so closeness feels like a threat. You'll say, I just have standards. But maybe your standards are a mask for fear of rejection. You'll say, I'm independent. But maybe you're avoiding vulnerability because vulnerability feels like losing. The shadow loves masks because masks keep you looking good while staying stuck. And here's the core idea of this whole video. The shadow doesn't control you by force. It controls you by identity. It makes you believe you are a certain kind of person. So you keep making choices that protect that identity, even when it destroys your life. Let's take an example. A person who believes I'm always the strong one might feel disgust toward needing help. So their shadow becomes weakness, not actual weakness, but the fear of appearing weak. And then what happens? They don't ask for support. They don't admit confusion. They don't talk about their pain. They isolate. They get sharper, colder, more controlled. And one day, they wonder why they feel dead inside. That's the shadow running the life. Or a person who believes, I'm the good one, will repress selfishness, anger, and jealousy. They'll be nice. They'll be polite. But the shadow doesn't vanish. It comes back as resentment, as quiet punishment, as moral superiority, as passive aggression, as secret fantasies of revenge. And then they wonder why relationships feel heavy. Again, shadow running the life. So the question is not whether you have a shadow. You do. The question is whether your shadow is conscious or unconscious. Because an unconscious shadow becomes fate. A conscious shadow becomes fuel. In the next part, I'll show you exactly how the shadow takes control through 5 common pathways, and how to catch it in real time before it makes the decision for you. Part 2. The 5 ways the shadow controls decisions. If you want to know whether your shadow is running your life, stop looking at your intentions. Look at your patterns, because your intentions are what you wish you were driven by. Your patterns are what you're actually driven by. Here are 5 major ways the shadow hijacks decisions. First, projection. You fight yourself through other people. Projection is simple. You disown a trait in yourself, and then you see it everywhere outside, and you react like it's an enemy. That's why certain people instantly irritate you. They're carrying a piece of you that you refuse to integrate. Someone is loud and confident, and you call them attention-seeking. Someone is quiet and reserved, and you call them weak. Someone is ambitious, and you call them greedy. Someone is relaxed, and you call them lazy. Ask yourself, what am I reacting to in them that I won't allow in me? Projection is the shadow's favorite trick because it feels righteous. It makes you feel like you're defending truth when you're defending denial. And as long as you project, you can't change because you think the problem is out there. Second, compulsion. When you can't help it, that's the shadow. A compulsion is not a habit. A habit can be changed with strategy. A compulsion has emotional pressure behind it. You don't do it because you chose it. You do it because not doing it creates anxiety. Scrolling, porn, overeating, impulse spending, checking messages, needing reassurance, picking fights, procrastination. The shadow often uses compulsion as self-regulation. If you can't process an emotion consciously, the shadow will process it unconsciously. You feel powerless in your real life, so your shadow seeks control through perfectionism. You feel unseen, so your shadow seeks attention through drama. You feel unlovable, so your shadow seeks certainty through obsession. You feel weak, so your shadow seeks strength through aggression. Compulsions are not random. They are the shadow trying to solve a problem your conscious mind refuses to face directly. Third, self-sabotage. The shadow protects you from your own potential. Sometimes you don't fail because you're incapable. You fail because success would force you to become visible. Success would force you to be judged, to be envied, to be responsible, to be exposed. And if your shadow contains fear, shame, or a not good enough identity, then success becomes a threat. So you sabotage, you wait too long, you start too late, you get busy, you get tired, you lose momentum at the moment it matters, and then you tell yourself a story. I guess I didn't want it that much. but you did want it. You just didn't want what would happen to your identity if you got it. Because your identity is not built on truth. It's built on protection. The shadow doesn't want you to become powerful if power would reveal your unhealed parts. So, it chooses safety over growth every time. Fourth, overreaction. The shadow shows itself as intensity that doesn't fit the moment. Overreaction is a diagnostic tool. When your emotional response is bigger than the situation, you're not reacting to the situation. You're reacting to history. Someone cancels plans and you feel abandoned. Someone gives feedback and you feel attacked. Someone sets a boundary and you feel humiliated. Someone disagrees and you feel disrespected. That intensity is often the shadow holding old pain, and because you don't consciously carry that pain, the shadow carries it for you and releases it when triggered. Overreaction is the shadow saying, "Look here, this is still alive." Fifth, persona addiction. The shadow grows behind your image. Your persona is the version of you that you show the world. A healthy persona is useful, but most people don't have a persona. They have a prison. I'm the nice one. I'm the logical one. I'm the tough one. I'm the disciplined one. I'm the spiritual one. I'm the good son. I'm the provider. I'm the independent one. When you cling to that identity, everything that contradicts it becomes shadow. If you're the nice one, your anger becomes shadow. If you're the tough one, your softness becomes shadow. If you're the rational one, your emotions become shadow. If you're the disciplined one, your desire for rest becomes shadow. And then the shadow starts to control you by pressure, because you're not living from wholeness, you're living from performance. And performance always creates a shadow. Shadow work is not about becoming good. It's about becoming complete. And completeness creates real will. In the final part, I'll show you how to integrate the shadow so it stops driving your life from the dark. Part 3. Integration. How to make the shadow work for you. Here's the most important shift you can make. Your shadow is not your enemy. Your shadow is your rejected life force. It's energy that was pushed underground. And underground energy doesn't disappear. It becomes pressure. So the goal isn't to kill the shadow. The goal is to bring it into consciousness, where it becomes choice. Because the moment you can say, "Yes, that exists in me," the shadow loses its need to act behind your back. So, how do you integrate it? Here is a practical method. First, track the charge. Start with emotional charge, sudden disgust, intense anger, jealousy, superiority, shame, instant attraction, the urge to punish, the urge to prove yourself. These moments are gold. Write them down, not the whole story, just what happened, what you felt, what you wanted to do, because the shadow lives in impulse. Second, name the trait. Ask yourself, what quality did I perceive in the other person or situation? Arrogance, neediness, weakness, authority, confidence, sexuality, ambition, carelessness, competence. Then ask the real question, where is this in me? Not do I do the same thing, but where is the seed of this trait in me, even if it looks different? Because the shadow often hides in opposites. If you hate arrogance, your shadow might be your desire to be proud. If you hate weakness, your shadow might be your fear of being helpless. If you hate authority, your shadow might be your desire to lead. Third, find the origin. Ask, when did I learn this trait was unacceptable? Most shadows are learned. A moment where you decided, I will never be seen like that again. That moment creates the shadow. Fourth, Reclaim the healthy form. Integration does not mean becoming destructive. It means reclaiming the healthy expression. Anger becomes boundaries. Selfishness becomes self-care. Dominance becomes leadership. Vulnerability becomes intimacy. Ambition becomes vision and execution. The shadow is usually a distorted version of something essential. Fifth, practice conscious permission. Give yourself controlled permission to express the trait in a healthy way. In real life, say no without over-explaining. Speak with certainty once per day. Tell the truth where you'd normally hide. Set a goal that scares you and commit publicly. Ask directly for what you want. The shadow is convinced by experience, not insight. Now the thesis. The less you know your shadow, the more it determines your decisions, because it operates in the dark. But once you bring it into the light, something changes. You stop being possessed by emotions. You stop repeating the same patterns. You stop living as a persona. Your will becomes real, not forced, not performative, not dependent on motivation. Real will comes from integration. When nothing inside you has to hide, your energy becomes available for action. And that's the difference between a life driven by unconscious forces and a life directed by conscious will. If this resonated with you, take a moment and sit with it. Not to agree, not to disagree, but to observe what it stirred in you. If you want more content like this, long form, precise, and focused on real inner change, you can follow this channel. New videos will go deeper into psychology, self-mastery, and the forces that quietly shape your decisions. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.